I was never the kind of person who liked birthdays, especially after he disappeared. But on my birthday this year, 2025, I found something in the mailbox that made my hands go numb. A small white envelope, no return address, no stamp, just my name, written in a handwriting I hadn't seen. In 2 decades. Claire. 2 decades. 20 years. Since the day my husband Ethan vanished. And inside the envelope, just one line. I never left. Look in the basement. I didn't scream. I didn't drop it. I just stood there, on the porch of the house I once shared with him, and felt my entire body freeze, because I knew that handwriting, knew the curl of the lowercase e, the way the T always slanted right. I'd spent 7 years married to Ethan, long enough to memorize the angles of his signature, like a second language. He disappeared on my birthday in 2005. No note, no warning. Just gone. One moment we were sipping coffee. The next, he was a missing persons report. They never found a body. No evidence of foul play. No bank withdrawals. No phone calls. It was as if the world swallowed him whole. Detective Morgan, the officer assigned to the case back then, told me gently, sometimes people just walk away. But Ethan wasn't the type to walk away. He was grounded, obsessive, even paranoid. Yes, but never reckless. I knew something was wrong that day. The coffee he made for me was cold. His toothbrush was still wet, and his shoes, the ones he always wore, were still by the door. Who walks away without their shoes? Or maybe he never left. For years, I left the basement untouched, not because I was scared, but because it still smelled like him, cedar, graphite, and that strange, smoky cologne he insisted on wearing. Even when we were just watching reruns on the couch, I told myself I didn't believe in ghosts, but I never opened that door. After sunset, and now this letter. I never left. Look in the basement. Was this a joke? Some cruel prank from someone who'd read the articles, who saw my name on a podcast list or a Reddit thread, and decided to stir old wounds? Or was it real? Was Ethan still here? I should have called someone. Sophie, my best friend. Detective Morgan. The new owners of the house down the street. But instead, I went inside, closed the door, held the envelope to my chest, and slowly walked toward the basement. The doorknob was colder than I remembered. Funny how time rewires your senses. I used to swing this door open without a thought, arms full of laundry, barefoot, humming some random tune. Now, I gripped it like it might bite. The hinges groaned as I pushed the door open. Same narrow stairs, same creaky third step. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. Of course, the bulb had probably blown years ago, so I reached for my phone, turned on the flashlight, and started down. Each step moaned under my weight. The air thickened with every inch. It wasn't just dust. It was something else, like secrets had a scent, and it had been waiting to be disturbed. I reached the bottom and swept my light across the room. Boxes, old furniture, bikes from when Ethan and I thought we might have kids, stacks of yellowed paper labeled Taxes 2002. And then I saw it. The back wall. One section of it looked wrong, like someone had recently moved things. A bookshelf, slightly ajar, scuff marks on the floor. I stepped closer, ran my fingers along the shelf's edge. There, a small groove behind the frame. I pressed. The shelf shifted, revealing a narrow passageway, cut into the wall. My breath caught in my throat. What the hell was this? We had no basement extension, no crawl space, no renovations. Yet here it was, dark, cold, silent, waiting. I should have turned back, but curiosity, grief, the quiet whisper of what if. They pulled me forward. I stepped through the gap, phone light trembling in my hand. The air was colder here. Stellar, not just basement mustiness, but sealed air, untouched for years. The passage bent sharply to the right. Just a few steps in, I saw it. A room, hidden, windowless, about the size of a walk-in closet. And inside it, a bed, a lamp, canned food, a stack of books, a cassette player, and a chair. A chair with restraints. I blinked. No, not restraints. Belts, but buckled tight, as if someone had been strapping themselves in. I moved closer. There were scratches on the walls, short, repetitive, like someone had been counting, hundreds of them. And next to the bed, a notebook. I picked it up. The cover was leather, faded, embossed with Ethan's initials. I opened it to the first page, and what I read made my stomach twist. She's not Claire. She looks like her, sounds like her, but it's not her. They replaced her. I dropped the notebook. The words buzzed in my head like static. She's not Claire. What did that even mean? I picked it up again, flipping through more pages. The entries were scattered, unhinged, some coherent, others pure panic. She asks me questions she should already know. She blinks too much. She hums songs I never taught her. They got her smile wrong, each line more paranoid than the last. And then, a passage dated just 6 months ago. Still watching, still waiting. She comes down here sometimes. Not really her, but I don't think she knows I'm here. I froze. That wasn't possible. I hadn't been down here in years. No one had. I would have noticed. Wouldn't I? Then I heard it. A sound behind me. A whisper of breath. The faintest shift of air. I turned slowly, and standing in the doorway was Ethan. Alive, pale, thinner, bearded. But it was him. His eyes locked onto mine, and he smiled. A slow, eerie smile, like he'd just won a game. I never knew we were playing. I told you, he said. I never left. For a moment, I couldn't move. My legs were rooted, my lungs frozen. All I could hear was the thud of my heartbeat, banging in my ears. Ethan stood there, as if he had just come back from the store, not from a 20-year ghost story. His clothes hung loose. His skin was pale, almost translucent. Hair grown wild. Eyes, though, they weren't wild. They were calm, too calm, like he'd been rehearsing this moment, over and over again. Ethan, I whispered. He tilted his head, smiled wider. Do you believe me now? I took a step back. He didn't follow. I thought you were dead. He laughed. Dry, like paper tearing. I was, to them, to everyone else. But you... He pointed a finger at me, right at my chest. You were the only one who didn't notice. I lived down here, he said, as long as I had to, until they stopped watching. Who's they? He walked into the room, sat on the bed, like we were just two people, having a normal conversation, in a nightmare. They switched you. That night. You remember that party? The neighbor's baby shower. I nodded slowly. They followed us home. Took you. Left a copy. He stared at me with absolute conviction, like this was fact. But I didn't fall for it, he said, voice rising. I knew she wasn't you. I watched her. You mean me? I asked. His face twitched. That's the trick. Claire. You think you're you. That's how they win. My hands were shaking now. I wasn't scared of Ethan, not the way you fear a monster. I was afraid like you fear a mirror that suddenly blinks back. Ethan, I said gently, you need help. You're sick. He stood. No, Claire. I'm awake. You're the one still dreaming. He began pacing. They poisoned our food, the water, started with TV frequencies. Mind control pulses. I saw the signals in your eyes. I didn't change, I whispered. You changed. No, he shouted, slamming his fist into the wall. Then softer. They changed you. The silence after that was heavier than his voice. I watched him unravel, right there, in the place he had built to keep himself safe. From the woman he thought was me, I waited, he murmured, for years, hoping the real you would come back. But you didn't, so I had to wait longer. He looked up, but now you're here. And maybe, just maybe, they let you go. He stepped toward me, and something inside me broke, not out of fear, but sorrow, because the man I married was gone. Not in 2005, not physically, but long before that. He had vanished into a prison of his own making, a basement built out of fear. I took a deep breath and forced myself to stay still. Ethan, I said, I need you to come upstairs with me. He blinked. To the surface. Yes. To the world. To light. To help. He hesitated, then shook his head. It's not safe. They'll find me. They already have. I said, 20 years. Ethan, don't you think they would have done something by now? He laughed again. Sadder this time. You still think it's real. You think this world makes sense. That's how I know you're not the original. Something in me cracked. Not with anger, but grief. Maybe I'm not, I said softly. But I'm the only one who came looking. He looked at me, really looked. And I saw, for just a flicker, recognition. His mouth trembled. His hands fell to his sides. Claire. I reached out, and for the first time in 20 years, his hand touched mine. Thin, cold, but human, real. He let out a breath and collapsed into my arms, sobbing, whispering, I'm so sorry. I thought you were gone. I thought I was saving you. No, I said, you were saving yourself. But now, I'll help bring you back. It took hours to convince him to leave the basement, even longer, to step outside the house. The sun hurt his eyes. The wind made him flinch. The birds. He hadn't heard birds in years. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I let him sleep upstairs. In the room we once shared. I made soup. He didn't eat it. I ran a bath. He refused it. He sat by the window all night, watching the street, waiting. They'll come, he whispered. They always come back when we let our guard down. I didn't argue. There was no point. All I could do was be there. Until one night, he asked, would you take me to someone? Someone who can help quiet the noise. I nodded and cried quietly, in the dark. The doctors were gentle. They didn't use words like crazy. They used terms like paranoid delusion, prolonged dissociative retreat, extreme trauma response. But I knew what it really meant. Ethan had been gone for a long time, not just from the world, but from himself. They admitted him voluntarily. He asked for books, journals, a small plant for his room. We talked every Sunday, sometimes for an hour, sometimes not at all. One visit, he handed me a folded piece of paper. Inside was a drawing. It was me, but not. The hair was wrong, the nose slightly off, the eyes too wide, but the caption underneath read, not Claire. But still, she stayed. And that was enough. Maybe I wasn't the Claire he remembered. Maybe I was never going to be. But I was the only one who came back for him, even if he never truly returned. It's 2026 now. My birthdays feel different. No longer haunted, but not quite healed. I kept the note. I never left. Look in the basement. I framed it, not as a reminder of fear, but of what happens when love forgets how to breathe. I sold the house, gave the money to a foundation that builds recovery centers for people like Ethan, people who vanish long before anyone notices. I started writing again, about memory, about identity, about how the people we lose sometimes stay in the places we're too afraid to look, like basements and boxes and birthdays. The last thing Ethan ever said to me was this: maybe I didn't lose you. Maybe I just needed time to believe you were real again. I told him I always was. And maybe that was the real ghost story after all. If this story moved you, if you've ever waited in silence for someone to come back, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the stories we tell might just be the ones someone else is too afraid to speak. Some ghosts don't haunt houses, they haunt hearts. This wasn't a horror story. It was a love story twisted by time, buried beneath fear, and unearthed by the one person who refused to stop believing. And if this story stayed with you, don't scroll away quietly. Like, share, subscribe, because somewhere, someone else is still waiting to be found.